Better health by eating more. Secrets from centenarians. Well, now that you've been prepped, I'll tell you a little story. In graduate school, I was on a treadmill in the exercise physiology lab. And this was an experiment we were working on. And I was jogging. I was hooked up to an oxygen analyzer, and there's tubes coming out all different ways, hooked up to machines, and they're monitoring my exhalations, what kind of oxygen or carbon dioxide, nitrogen that I'm putting out. They can kind of figure from that what types of fuel my body is using. And this is fine. It's a lot of fun. So we're just jogging along. But they're about 20 minutes into it. It started to get harder. Now I was going at a constant pace. So they call it METs, 11 METs. It's a vigorous jog, but it was getting harder and harder. And then my breathing became more labored. And then all of a sudden my head just filled with a big cloud, and I felt like I was floating off the treadmill. And I said, I think it's time to quit. What do you think happened? Because it was really interesting, because the week before, I did the exact same run on the treadmill for an hour and a half. Same pace, everything the same, except I went for an hour and a half. And then I had to quit because I had other appointments to go to. You know, I could have gone longer. What do you think was the difference between that first one and this only one at 20 minutes? It was my diet. We just learned about glycogen. In fact, what I had done is on that, I had gone on a low carbohydrate diet for 7 days, and then I tried to run, and I could only last 20 minutes. The week before, I was on a high carbohydrate, we call it complex carbohydrate diet, high plant-based carbohydrate diet, and I could go for 90 minutes or more. That was a distinct reminder that nutrition makes a big difference. Now, athletes know this, and so they prepare accordingly to maximize their efficiencies when they're doing their event. Well, we learned about a lot of things in graduate school relating to nutrition and how it can help save people's lives. In fact, I've had young people as young as 18 pass away because of their diet. But most people, they usually pass away because of heart disease, cancer, strokes, liver disease, diabetes. And this is the rate, the leading causes of death for those 44 to 64. If we look at over 65, of course it's the same things. It's just a lot more people. Over 1 million people a year. And the same kind of things. And these are related to food, diet. And so it's like, wow, if there's some way I can help people prevent this, it's going to make an impact. Because I felt it myself just in exercise. It can make a difference in health. Now, it's so important that we did lots of research. Lots of studies were done to figure out how their interplay between food and our health. And these are some pictures from Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Dean Ornish. You may have heard of him. He was in the 90s. He came up with a research project where he just gave patients that had arterial blockage. You can see here the arterial blockage. This being here, the before, and then 3 years later, after, much broader. And here's a narrowing here in the coronary artery, and then here's where it's wide open. Same person, the only difference is they changed their diet, their lifestyle, reduced stress, exercise regularly. Just lifestyle habits made a difference. And what typically we do is we put little bypasses. They bypass those narrowings and say, that's it. Okay, you're fixed. Are you really fixed? No. That's just the spot that showed up. It's happening all over. So we want to open up everything. And this is important. So that's what we found out from research. But if we were to talk to people that live a long time, that aren't dying from those things early, they eventually die of those things, but it's late, way late. We found that Dan Buettner, he worked for the National Geographic, and this was like in 2007. He came out with the National Geographic article about the people who lived to be 100 or more. In these 4 areas, and there was the concentrations of high, old people that lived a long time. Sardinia, Italy; Okinawa, Japan; Nicoya, Costa Rica; and Loma Linda, California. And so if we look at where those are in the world, they're scattered all over. These people lived a long time, so he said, let's find out what they all have in common. Is there anything? So let's look at Sardinia there in Italy. What did they eat? Well, this is a little island off the coast of Italy, and it's actually a portion of that island where these people were like sheep herders and stuff, and they ate mostly plants. Emphasis was on beans. They had whole wheat, kind of a pita bread type thing. They grew their own vegetables. They made their own wine, and this wine was what they call 3 times as much polyphenols or antioxidants than regular wine. They had goat milk cheese, and this mastic oil they used in their cooking, which comes from a plant. Okay, how about Okinawa, Japan? Well, we find that these particularly women that lived a long time, they were plant-based eating. They had stir-fried vegetables, sweet potatoes, tofu, and soybeans was kind of the beans that they used. And meat was used, but it was reserved for special occasions. And I see a lot of patients that are, let's say, from Mexico and South America, and this is their experience in Mexico or South America. But when they come here, they can afford a lot more. So here is Costa Rica. Same type of thing, plant-based, lots of beans, but a little different, but they had more corn tortillas. These aren't fried, they're just put on the fire, but not with oil. And then they had a lot of tropical fruits, and then again, meat was reserved for special occasions, like Sundays or on holidays or celebrations and things like that. Then you had the group in Loma Linda, California. This is actually a group of Seventh-day Adventists, and they have a plant-based diet, and they have mixed types, different kinds of vegetarians, basically. You had the lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which is the person that eats no meat but have eggs and milk. Then there's the vegan, which has no meat or dairy products. The pesco-vegetarian, that's the person that just eats mostly plants, but then has a little bit of fish. And then there's the flexitarian. Oh, I'm vegetarian some days, and some days I'm not. So they're kind of flexible. Okay. But the same idea, though. Meat is not a heavy part of the meal. It's used as a side dish, it's a garnish, it's a flavor, but not the focus. Now, have you seen, is there any differences between what we're seeing here among these folks and what we're used to? Kind of is, isn't there? Right. So when we look at that, we have to say, what else are they doing? Okay, that's diet. But move naturally every day. It's just as we heard, exercise is real important. As you heard, and even from my experience, you don't have to have diabetes to get low blood sugar. I had very low blood sugar, but I had taken out all the glycogen in my muscles and my liver, and that's what made it bad. Of course, I just had to eat some bread to get it back again. Anyway, so stop eating. This was something in Okinawa. They only ate 80%. They would have they wouldn't overeat in any one meal. They kind of quit before they got too full. They were plant-based. They had a purpose in life. They had a plan. Rest is important, and this is in all the groups. Rest is important, 1 day a week, or good sleeping habits. They were part of a community, family was a priority, and they surrounded themselves with other people that had blue zone attitudes or values. So these are all excellent things. But they all had in common that plants were a major part, and meat was used only as an accent. Beans, whether it's soybeans or any kind of beans was a predominant protein source, and they drank plenty of water, and the evening meal is typically lighter. All right, what did that show us? That showed us that we need to eat more. Yes, that's the way to eat. Eat more fiber, more plants, more seasonings, herbs, and spices that come from plants. And when you eat these things, you get more color, so it becomes more appealing, and that improves the experience. And when we eat more of these plants and stuff and all this we are going to get fewer calories. Why is that? Because of what we call calorie density. If you look at how much people are eating, if they're eating, well, the average person eats about 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds of food. Okay, if you were to weigh it, it's going to be 3 to 4 pounds. No matter what kind of food, hamburgers, pizza, spaghetti, Eggo waffles, whatever it is, it's going to be 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds is what you're going to eat. So if I were to look at the food, in terms of food groups, I'd look at greens, for example, and let's say non-starchy vegetables, and start comparing how much can I eat, 3 pounds of these things, okay? That would be safe. Fruit, starchy vegetables, that's like potatoes and corn and squash. Whole grains, that's like oatmeal, barley, brown rice, that type of thing. Legumes, that's beans, peas, and those type of things. Eggs, then different kinds of meats, fish, poultry, whatever. And cheeses, and then nuts and seeds, and then we have fats and oils. So now, if you were to eat 3 pounds of any one of those things, which one do you think you'd have the least amount of calories, and which one do you think you'd have the most? Right, the greens, you'd have 3 pounds of that, you wouldn't have very many calories. The oil, you'd get a lot. Let's look at that. Here's a graph showing, putting all those food groups into order here, where greens are not even 500 calories if you got 3 pounds of greens. Non-starchy vegetables, maybe not even 500, maybe about 500. The fruit is a little bit more, it's closer to 1,000 than starchy vegetables. And it's not until you get to eggs that you're reaching 2,000 calories in 3 pounds, which is about what we need every day, the amount of calories we need. It's about 2,000, some people 1,500, some people 2,500, depending on your activity level and gender and so forth. But this is, you can see if you eat mostly foods in this, if you eat mostly foods in this group over here, on eggs and beyond, you're going to be easier to overeat compared to the other side. And that's what's happening in these people that are centenarians. They're eating mostly those on the other side. It's not that they're not eating these, it's just that they're mostly those, less of these. So that's where the color comes in. So that's what you want to think about. How can I get more of those in my diet? If I do, I'll eat less of these, but at the same time, I'm going to get more greens and more fiber, more filling. And in fact, the impact of that is a lot of things. Reversing heart disease as a result. I showed you some of those slides. And then lowering blood pressure. You don't even have to lower the salt. Increasing the number of those foods will lower your blood pressure before you even lower salt. So that's cool. And diabetes, we can drive that into remission. Lowering body weight, improve kidney function, reduce inflammation. How does it do all this? Well, it helps by improving our gut. And the gut influences inflammation, also influences pain, and it also combats depression. Man, a lot can happen by changing your diet. So how should we change it? What's it look like? What does a diet that's plant-based look like? Well, here is an easy breakfast. Okay, you like oatmeal? Well, somebody has, I know my mom just doesn't like oatmeal because she was forced to eat it as a kid. Anybody here been forced to eat it? Oh, you were forced to eat it as a kid. Cream of wheat oatmeal, yeah. Okay, so you say forget it. And that's a normal thing. But if we do this to it, in other words, you've got rolled oats with chia seeds, it could be flax seeds, you can have some kind of milk, some vanilla, some berries, cinnamon, almonds, put all that stuff together, you get quite a mix, and it's much more flavorful than just plain oatmeal.
Is that chocolate chips in there?
It sure looks like it. I got that off the internet. But even if you had those chocolate chips, it's not going to be much with all that fiber. So you got 400 calories of food and 17 grams of protein, and you go down here, fiber is 20 grams. Now, how much fiber should we eat a day? If we can get at least 40 grams of fiber a day, we'd be doing, that's one of the easy things. I help patients that, I say, hey, let's try to count your fiber. Find it, get it 35, 40 grams, and then just start losing weight. Just from that. You don't count calories, count fiber. How about lunch? Quick artichoke and white bean pasta bowl. Okay, so this is using whole wheat because that has more fiber. Whole wheat penne pasta with some dried tomatoes, or you can have diced tomatoes, some kidney beans, and this is quick to put together. You can just, they're just cans. You just throw it in there. Now, you'd want the low salt or no salt added cans, but this is a quick way to eat and throw together a meal. Calamari olives, artichoke hearts, and onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, basil, some balsamic vinegar, parsley. Throw that together. This could be done in 10 minutes. And then 400 calories, 18 grams of protein. Look at the fiber again, 23 grams of fiber. You know, the average person only eats about 12 grams of fiber in a whole day because they're eating mostly on this end of that chart. Very, very low fiber. Okay, and we look at, oh, here's something that is good, is chili. You make your own chili with some brown rice. You can put this on top of not only brown rice, maybe potatoes. Potatoes, doesn't that make you gain weight? Uh-oh. No, because we're eating it like this, okay? So instead of putting butter and mayonnaise, not mayonnaise, but sour cream on the potato, we're going to put chili. So, or you can have on brown rice. But diced tomatoes, tomato paste, you have mixed vegetables. You can use some of these Boca Burger crumbles, which you get at the store. Now it's a vegetarian alternative to ground beef, but the benefit of that is that it may have only 5 grams of fat in it, whereas ground beef has 19 grams in a third. So that's quite a bit difference. So, and then chili seasoning and stuff. Again, it's got a lot of protein, 25 grams, and lots of fiber. And the fat is very low. So this is what's going to help you become more plant-based, but just start with breakfast. Make it more plant-based, and you will feel good. So the idea is to be intentional about this. We want to be intentional about what we're doing so we can not only live longer, but be able to eat more. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Diane.
Restaurants. How do you, when you go out to eat and they don't have a good selection of vegetarian meals, what do you do?
Okay, so you're going out to eat and you go, what do I eat at this restaurant? Well, what you have to do is you look down at the menu, at the whole menu, and figure that everything on that menu is like a grocery list. Everything that they're serving in terms of all the meals and things, they have all that stuff in the back. So you can say, I want this but without this and this, or I want this side dish and this, put this with this and this and the other, and they'll do it. They need your business. And so that's how you go navigate a restaurant. But oftentimes a lot of restaurants will have, salads and say, I'll say, I want this salad, but I see you have beans over here, throw that on top. Or I want this spaghetti, like I went over to, was it Olive Garden, and they had some spaghetti, so I said, oh, put the, some of those cannelloni beans on it too. All right, they even charge more. So So it's just got to be creative. But they're there to serve you, so they'll do anything you ask them, if they want to stay in business anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? That's good. Okay. Well, thank you very much.